Hey, wouldn't it be great if you had some guys on your bench who could help you win your week 2 matchup? Well, you might, and I'm going to tell you who they are. Welcome back, Endgame. I'm Chris, and I'm here to give you some sneaky starts who I think have big time upside heading into week 2. And let's start out in Washington with Curtis Samuel. Now, a lot of people know about Curtis Samuel. Obviously, he's been a productive NFL player. They saw what he did in week 1. He was a huge waiver wire pickup this week. But not everybody thinks Curtis Samuel is a guy they should be putting in their lineup right away. And I'm here to tell you he is. First of all, like I said, Curtis Samuel is a very good real-life NFL player. Number 2, Ron Rivera had Curtis Samuel back in Carolina. He knows his skill set, he knows his strengths, and he knows how to use this guy. Number 3, it's Detroit. That matchup, maybe not quite as good as Jacksonville, but right there, close to as good as Jacksonville. And then number 4, we have to love the usage we saw from Curtis Samuel in week 1. Led the team with 11 targets, but even better than that, he's kind of in a Debo light role as he got 4 rush attempts in this game as well. So he's going to get you some work out of the backfield, going to get plenty of targets, got a red zone look, scored a touchdown. In a great matchup, everything is there for Curtis Samuel to have another great week. So if you're struggling, maybe you got T. Higgins who might miss this week, or Keenan Allen who's definitely missing this week, or maybe your guy's busted last week and you don't feel great about him, I think Curtis Samuel is a great start in week 2. From a veteran to a rookie, let's go out to Tennessee. No, not Treylon Burks. I'm talking about Kyle Phillips. That's right, Kyle Phillips, who most people had never heard of prior to week 1, but now they've heard of him. No, didn't have some massive, breakout, headline-making type of game, but he was very solid, 6 receptions and 66 yards, which in a PPR format is very good for your flex position. And there's reasons to like him again here in week number 2. Number 1, Robert Woods, who's 30 years old and coming off ACL, was non-existent in week 1, which nobody should be shocked about despite all the camp hype he was getting. Number 2, Treylon Burks, another rookie who I do like, only played 36% of the snaps in week 1. His role is going to slowly increase, but it's not there yet. And then number 3, when you look at this Buffalo defense, yes, they are a great defense, maybe the best defense in the league. The one area that they are weak in, if they are weak in it, is underneath those slot receivers, those shorter, routes, those short routes closer to the line of scrimmage. And Ryan Tannehill probably going to be under pressure all game long. And what does that mean? That means less time to throw, and you got to hit those quicker plays, and that's what Kyle Phillips does. My man Pierre compared him to Hunter Renfrow, and I think that's a great comparison. I think in a PPR format, Kyle Phillips is a solid, high-floor flex start for you. Maybe doesn't have the ceiling of Curtis Samuel, but he likely won't kill you in week 2. Makes for a solid start. Continuing with wide receivers I like, how about out in Cleveland? The surprise of the week may be Donovan Peoples-Jones. Not that he had a huge game, but that he had a huge target share. 11 targets in week 1. Granted, didn't do a ton with them, but that's kind of what you get with Donovan Peoples-Jones, especially with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. This is already a boom-bust kind of guy. He's used more vertically in this passing game. Now going up against the Jets. I don't like him because it's the Jets. I do think this secondary is underrated. Sauce Gardner looks like the real deal. They have some good corners, but what did we see in week 1? They gave up big plays. This is a defense that they can hold teams in check, and then bam, they're going to give up a big play. That is perfect for Donovan Peoples-Jones. That's his bread and butter, is the big play. I think we see him and Jacoby Brissett hit this week on one big play, one big touchdown, and really, that's all you need. So sure, he's much more risky than Curtis Samuel and Kyle Phillips, but his ceiling is much higher than those guys too. So if you're in a deeper league and you're looking for a home run, or maybe your opponent has a stacked, loaded team and you need some upside, look at Donovan Peoples-Jones in week 2. And then finally, how about household name Greg Dortch? Yeah, I know what you're saying. You're like, who? Greg Dortch? Who is that? And nobody really knew who Greg Dortch was heading into week 1. But all he did was lead the Cardinals in targets, receptions, and receiving yards. Pretty impressive for a guy nobody had ever heard of. And look, with DeAndre Hopkins still suspended, Zach Ertz coming back from that injury, Rondale Moore still not practicing, Andy Isabella not practicing, AJ Green being complete dust, he's going to have a role, at least in the short term. Not necessarily a long-term startable guy, but in the short term. And in this matchup against the Las Vegas Raiders, which I think is going to be an absolute shootout, I think he makes a great start again this week because the target share should be there. I don't expect him to out-target Marquise Brown every single week, especially as that connection between Kyler Murray and Marquise gets better. But he still is going to be likely the number 2, at worst the number 3 target in this offense and in a game that looks to be a shootout, a high-scoring affair with a lot of throwing. I think he makes for a decent flex start in deeper leagues. All right, enough from wide receivers. Let's move on to tight end. And how about Robert Tonyan? No, didn't do a whole lot in week 1. Still working back from that ACL tear he suffered last year. Only played 36% of the snaps. But he got 5 targets. 5 targets on 36% of the snaps. We got to think he's going to be worked into this offense more. Week 2, second game back from ACL. Also, this wide receiver group is about as bad as we expected. Now, granted, Allen Lazard did not play last week. He is back at practice, so he probably will suit up. But still, beyond him, what do they have? Sammy Watkins, Randall Cobb, Christian Watson, who literally dropped his chance to earn Aaron Rodgers' trust, Romeo Doubs, who may be something, but he's a rookie that was drafted in the 4th round. He's going to need time. Robert Tonyan should see a higher snap share this week, probably closer to 50%. And if that's the case, he's going to get targeted more. And we know in this offense, attached to Aaron Rodgers, he has touchdown upside. So if you're desperate at tight end, maybe you're in a league where everybody drafts 2 tight ends, or you're in a deeper league and there's not a lot on the waivers, go look for Robert Tonyan. I think he has sneaky upside here in week 2. And then out in Cincinnati, how about Hayden Hurst? Now, I have to say this comes down to T. Higgins. Does he play or does he not play? If we get word that T. Higgins is playing, I think Hayden Hurst is still an okay start just because it's Cincinnati, but I don't love him as much this week. But if Higgins is out and he is dealing with a concussion, he's still in the protocol. If Higgins misses, I think Hayden Hurst is a great start in week 2. He had 8 targets last week after T. Higgins left the game. If he's going to get that kind of target share in a Bengals offense, you can't ignore that. Now, I know Joe Burrow did not look good at all last week, but look, he had surgery in the offseason. He had hardly any camp, any practice. He will be better. I'm not worried about Joe Burrow or this Bengals offense. So keep an eye out on the T. Higgins practice reports. If it doesn't look like he's going to go, jump onto your waivers, grab Hayden Hurst. I think he has a nice week here in week 2. And then finally, let me give you one QB in case you lost Dak Prescott, or maybe you're just streaming QB and you're in those leagues where everybody, drafts 2 quarterbacks. Go out to the waiver wire, see if Matt Ryan is available. No, it wasn't a great first week for Matt Ryan. Wasn't a great start to his career in Indianapolis. Had 3 turnovers, but he did throw for over 300 yards and a touchdown. And he gets an even better matchup this week than he had last week going up against Jacksonville. Carson Wentz just torched this defense for over 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. I think Matt Ryan can do something similar. They'll be better in week 2. He'll be better in week 2. Jacksonville's defense, sure, it's not as bad as it was last year, but it's still not an elite defense that you need to fear. There's going to be opportunity here for Matt Ryan. So again, if you lost Dak Prescott, or maybe you just waited on QB and you're streaming quarterback, I think Matt Ryan is a great streaming option here in week 2. All right, now that you know some hidden gems who are sitting on your bench that you could potentially use in week 2, you need to know who to start, who to sit at every position, who can boom, who can bust. Check out this playlist right here. We give you all of that and more here in week 2 and beyond. Thanks for watching. See you next time.